I'll just preface this whole thing by saying it makes me cringe out of existence. I don't like watching my old stuff, like at all. Like, this is what you come to my streams for, right? Just a close-up of my cat trying to drag away the camera. As I was saying, this video was uploaded over a year ago. Might not seem that long ago, right? But as someone who made the video, a year is a very, very long time. Let's see what I say, because I haven't seen it myself in a long time. Let's see.
Over 1,000 chapters and nearly the same amount of episodes. The series, written by Eiichiro Oda, that has been a staple of the Shonen Jump magazine since 1997. One Piece. A series that, due to its sheer length, has put off many people over many years. But not me.
That is true.
So today, join me as we set sail to the Grand Line in my first ever journey through the One Piece anime adaptation. Before we start, we need to set some ground rules to somehow manage this behemoth of a series.
We do.
Firstly, I am really going in with little to no knowledge about the manga or the anime.
This is also very
And
true.
These are all
A lot of people still don't believe me, but yes.
So don't be surprised if I miss a lot of
I literally knew nothing about the series before I
Secondly,
started.
I'll be exclusively watching the anime, and if you're curious
That is also
why
true.
I made the decision to go this route, I'll explain that at the end of the video. I'll be watching mostly with
This is a lie.
but I might switch to dubs if I can.
I watched it
For
basically
a while,
exclusively
so
on
do keep that in mind
subs.
if there are some minor discrepancies between the translations. Also, I'll be using the story arc format listed on the One Piece fan wiki to have a clear separation.
Alright, so this is something that people warned me. Apparently, because like even looking at it now, people warned me not to look ahead, right? That apparently these have spoilers. And I suppose the only case where you'd see this is like Summit War. Because like it's literally named War. But hey, I never got spoiled by it. So, win.
Between episodes. And lastly, just to make this a little more fun, we're going to be adding each arc into a tier list format, which will be updated continuously.
Oh boy, did you see that? Did you see that? I'm sorry to stop it again, but did you see that? Look at this. Look at this. Right? This is cropped. Look at this. Look at this corner. You see?
Which will be updated.
And it hits its aspect ratio and it keeps zooming in. I wouldn't have done that now. I wouldn't have done that now. That's ugly.
This will purely be out of my initial impressions, so don't take it too seriously. But with that out of the way, let's look toward the open sea and set sail into our very first arc.
Oh, this is so bad.
Romance Dawn. One Piece was always one of those extremely long.
I love how different the animation looks back then.
Never get into. I had never gotten around to watching Dragon Ball or Naruto or Bleach.
This
so
is
it
all
just
true.
seemed like something I'd never watch. But then, one faithful
Why is it so low
lockdown
res?
day, however, I was browsing through some of the popular shows, and that episode count just seemed like a chapter.
Hold on. Was episode 972 the latest one at the time?
Challenge. And I clicked it. Again, I want to restate that I went into the show completely blind. I did not even know that this series was about pirates.
This is also
Thing
true.
is, I absolutely love
And
anything to do
of course
with
I did.
golden
I was
age
about to
piracy.
say.
So my crazy
I was
decision
about
of
to
starting
say.
to watch an almost 1,000 episode long
At this
series
point, Black
was
Sails
reported
should send me
immediately,
like
and I knew
a shirt
I was
at
in
least.
for the long haul. Literally, the first few sentences of the intro is just the perfect hook. Get it? Because we're on the sea and, you know, fishing.
I made this exact joke in one of the most latest videos. I literally made the whole hook joke in the openings video.
Interested in this rush for treasure. I mean, what
So
is
bad.
more exciting than a mythical treasure chest that is hidden somewhere and everyone is just trying to find it? As I was watching the first episode, I started getting the feeling that One Piece wasn't really that serious and was more comedy-centric, despite the action that was going on. This thought was further strengthened when Luffy shows up in a barrel and then continues to eat every bit of food he can find. But of course, that assumption will be changed very shortly. We do get
I love how I don't know if this comes across, but I love how clueless I am here. Like just the sheer cluelessness of what I'm saying I don't know how people can think that I'd read or seen the series before. Like, I thought Luffy was super wacky, right? And I got the assumption that it's going to be 100% comedy.
Get some of Kobe's inner dialogue, which was a little more serious, though with Luffy's antics, I still didn't take it too seriously. You know, like when Kobe is scared out of his mind, but Luffy asks, "Who's this big chunky lady?"
Yes.
The first fight ensued, and right away I realized that our protagonist was very overpowered, which made me kind of happy, because I knew that we'd avoid all the, I'm losing, now I need to enter my next form to win.
How did that age? How did that age? I don't know. I feel like One Piece is good with power escalation in most cases. But then again, in some ways, I also don't think. I think some things are a bit over the top. I think if you're up to date with the manga, many of you will know what I'm talking about. But all right.
Luffy then explains that he's a rubber person, and Alvida says that he must be one of the people who have eaten a devil's fruit. Once again, this just got me more hyped for the future of the show. A show about pirates trying to find legendary treasure, while there are a select few who possess extraordinary abilities with the same goal? Awesome. He of course then blasts Alvida halfway to Mars, and that's the end of that.
Oh, another joke that turned out to be actually semi-true. Imagine imagine if Alvida landed next to Eneru in the cover story. If she was actually blasted to the moon. Back when having a devil fruit was weird. Yeah, I remember, like, they introduced the concept of devil fruits, right? And in most series that I'd watched, it was sort of, when people have these sorts of powers, it was a unique thing, and then that would be the basis behind it. But in One Piece, basically everybody after this point has a fruit power. So, yeah. I thought it would be a lot more rare, basically. I think I mentioned later in the video.
Is that Luffy's intention of going after
We'll
the
see.
One Piece is very much set in stone. Of course, before we can start our journey to the Grand Line, we must assemble a crew. And so, Luffy debates adding the mythical swordsman Zoro to his crew. Only problem is, Zoro is a pirate hunter, not a pirate.
That's
We
a problem.
also meet the infamous marine captain Morgan and his super annoying son who is pestering Zoro. After seeing Luffy's rubber abilities, we get some.
This is
exposition
another
from
one of those
Captain Morgan,
scenes
who
that
elaborates on the devil fruit powers. And here, I was very intrigued, as it only showed 15 of them.
15 devil fruits. 15 devil fruits. Devil fruits are more common in the Grand Line, being the most dangerous sea of all. It doesn't surprise me devil fruits are common. Exactly. It was just a wrong assumption on my part. It's not anything deeper than that. I just got the complete wrong impression. Like 15 fruits. 15. Same energy as Pell saying there are only 5 flying types. Basically. Yeah, because at this point, I legit thought the fruits would be something like legendary, right? And the moment you'd meet someone else with a fruit, that would be like, hold on, this is serious. But no. No, there are definitely a lot more than 15 fruits out there.
So I was not sure whether they would be extremely rare or not. We then hear about the various different powers. Breathing fire, causing tsunamis, and so on. Also, once again, we hear that it is said that the secret of the devil fruits lies somewhere in the Grand Line. I'll bring this up a little later in this video as well, but I was already starting to notice a trend that the Grand Line is this mystical place with all of the answers. But again, more on that later. Luffy then defeats Captain
Okay, I need to talk about this. When I started watching One Piece, I thought we'd never reach the Grand Line. That's what I thought. I thought with the all blue and all that, I thought the Grand Line would be basically something like the One Piece itself, right? Oh boy, how wrong I was. Causing tsunamis, or you foreshadowed something yourself without even noticing. I mean, at this point, I think it's basically like The Simpsons, right? You say anything at all, and The Simpsons have done it. So I think it's kind of like that.
Zoro joins the crew. badass swordsman acquired.
Oh yeah, I used to
We
do
then meet
this.
Nami, who seems to be snooping around for hidden treasure in the Marine headquarters. But instead of finding the map she was looking for, she finds a wanted poster of Buggy the Immortal. This sounded like a pretty interesting villain to go against, as the whole immortal title immediately made me think that he must also be someone with the devil fruit power. But we would get to see that just a little bit later on. We then get
I
some
love how
thoughts of
wrong I am.
Kobe's. Unlike Luffy, who dreams of becoming a pirate, he wants to be a marine. Zoro explains that he must be in a bit of an iffy situation, as he was aboard Alvida's ship and would be found out as an ex-pirate. But then, once the Marines show up, Luffy acts as if selling Kobe out, but is only acting this way to make his transition to being a Marine actually more believable. We then
Okay, this is actually like super cool. Noticing this retroactively, like Luffy basically giving up everything just for his friends to be happy. That is, I like the fact that it is established so early on, right? The whole Luffy playing up him being evil angle, or something like that. That's really cool that it actually popped up so early. You better bring back the crew stickers for Jinbei when you get round to Wano. I haven't done them in such a long time, I think it wouldn't really make sense. I don't think I did it for... I don't think I even did it with Robin. I don't think I did. I definitely didn't do it with Brooke anymore. Because at that point, the videos were getting so long that I just tried cutting everything I can for time.
Then
Even if
see
it was like
Nami
2
set
seconds.
out for the open sea with the wanted scroll, just as Luffy and Zoro also embark on their own ship. In the closing shots, we get a brief flashback of Luffy getting the straw hat, and that this pirate dream was actually a promise to someone. And that brings us to the end of Romance Dawn, the shortest arc at only 3 episodes. There's not really too much to delve into here.
What did I
aside
rank
from
it?
The fact that since, well, we're here,
I did it-
is evident that it made me want to see more. As for rating it, I think it works
Oh,
as
it's
a
the old
very
tier
good
list.
introduction to the series, showcasing both Luffy's abilities as well as hinting what's to come, particularly with the devil fruit powers. Because of this, I'll rank it as an A tier for now, but we'll see where it ends up later. But with the very short romance
Alright, you know what?
out of the way,
I need
let's
to talk
move
about something else.
Orangetown.
Do you think Luffy's flashback should have started like in the manga at the very beginning? Frankly, I don't think it really changes much, honestly. I don't think it really changes much. I think both versions are fine. It's just, I think that's a case with many animated shows. That they opt to throw you basically into the deep end before showing you how it started. I think in written form, a lot of stories choose to actually show you their origin before they actually get into the story. I don't think it's basically that important. But yeah, one thing I want to talk about. People say that, especially in these early videos, I talk very slow. Okay, and there's a very good reason for that. Because when I talk normally, if you would hear me talking in my native language, I speak so incredibly fast that most of the time my mouth can't keep up with what I'm trying to say, alright? So, and because English isn't my first language, and I learned the language from watching YouTube as well, I specifically try to enunciate things, basically. I think I overdid it a little bit in the first videos. I tried to speak clearly. But yeah, that's just something that I did. And I still do. I try to speak as clearly as I can. Otherwise, it would just be a rambling mess. Because when I start rambling, I speak incredibly fast. I think Chapter 1 of the manga works has much better hook to the series than Episode 1. I honestly think it depends on the person. With something like a anime, having the first episode just be a little bit more action-packed. Though at the same time, the flashback is also action-packed, so yeah, I do suppose it works both ways. What's your native language? It's Latvian. It's not a secret. Not a secret at all. Alright, Orangetown. I don't even remember a lot of these early arcs in terms of like what is what.
And see that she tricks a bunch of pirates and gets herself a ship. We then get into the meat of the episode. Get it? Because Luffy is always hungry.
Oh my god.
Funny. And see a flashback to Luffy. We are introduced to Shanks, who is constantly pestering young Luffy. And we see that this is the person that has seemingly made Luffy obsessed with being a pirate as well. The rest of the crew of course says that he is just a kid and is no pirate just yet.
Hold on.
Crew then enters
Hold
the
on.
vault.
Hold on. That is obviously
That
Yasop,
he
right?
is
But
just
does his
Luffy
hat
obsessed
actually
with being
say?
a pirate as well. The rest of the crew of course says that he is just a kid and is no pirate.
Oh, it does. Okay. Okay, so if you were very perceptive, I mean, okay, their names are alike. Maybe you can't quite say that that's Usopp's dad, but
Just yet. A different
that's solid.
crew then enters the bar and are generally just a bunch of douches, smashing a bottle and soaking Shanks. They then decide that they're apparently
Well,
too
that
good
was a
for
lot
this
of
place
cuts.
and storm out, to which everyone in the bar responds to by bursting out in laughter once they left. Unlike everyone else who's laughing the incident off, Luffy gets incredibly angry that Shanks and the other guys did not fight back. Again, this is one of those moments that just further drove home that he is serious about becoming the Pirate King later on, especially as he says it doesn't matter how strong they may look or how many of them there are, you have to fight back. This will obviously come up many times later on. But anyway, Shanks tells Luffy that it's not a big deal and that he should just chill out, to which Luffy responds by turning around and eating a large fruit.
So this is obviously a couple of things to note here. First off, the anime censored him stabbing himself in the eye, right? We only got to see that way later on. They did still adapt it though. I don't remember where it was, but it is in the anime. We actually see him stab his eye. And secondly, this is obviously something Luffy would do as well, right? With Bellamy. And that's something that flew over my head the first time I saw it.
That, of course, being the devil fruit.
Oh, no, I'm sorry for stopping again. But, like, there is so much discussion in the context of the manga right now, whether Shanks was aware, right, that the fruit is actually Joy Boy's fruit. I don't know. Because, like, we've also now heard that, I think it was in the latest episode, right, that his bounty at this moment in time is over 1 billion. A lot of this just, I'll be frank, it doesn't really make a lot of sense in retrospect, and I feel like this is one of those times where I have to fall on the side that a lot of this is retconned. But yeah.
Now Shanks is the worried one.
It sort of
turning
works, but
Luffy upside down and trying to make him spit it out. But alas, it is too late, as Luffy simply extends down to the floor. After eating the gum gum fruit, he would never be able to swim again, and his body has been turned to rubber. Of course, with Luffy being Luffy, he's still salty about the pirate that drenched Shanks before, so he goes to get revenge. Obviously, he has no chance.
Yeah, I thought they were pirates, not bandits.
But just in time, Shanks' crew shows up. And these next scenes immediately made Shanks one of my favorite characters we've seen so far, with him explaining that he doesn't care whether he's doused in beer or covered in food. Hell, he'll just laugh it off.
So this episode is like a fifth of all Shanks' screen time.
This transition from a seemingly super chill dude laughing at Luffy's antics over wanting to be a pirate to this cold and serious captain
Remind you of anyone?
Really awesome to see. And after the dude smoke bombs and runs with Luffy, we get a great scene.
Okay. See, again, like, Shanks, 1 billion bounty, right? 1 billion. 1 billion, okay? This dude throws a smoke bomb and runs away. Observation hockey, okay? First of all. Second of all, is he faster than Shanks? I don't think he is. There's...
be a pirate. To this
okay, I'm not gonna get into it, but I think
was really awesome to see.
I think quite a bit of this is retcon pretty heavily.
Runs with Luffy, we get a great scene of that switch right back to.
I love this episode so much when I first watched it though.
What will happen to Luffy? We then cut back to the man throwing Luffy in the sea with the intention to drown him. And here, of course, we see the curse of the devil fruits. Luffy has completely lost the ability to swim, and is barely staying afloat. Though I originally thought that just sink to the bottom,
I was about to say that.
Of course, been a lot more terrifying. Anyway, a huge sea monster then shows up, but Luffy is saved by Shanks just in time. but we find out that in the
This is
process,
such an incredible scene.
Shanks has lost his arm. We then get a
Like
really
all the retconny, joy boy, bounty, observation hockey things aside, I love this scene
Luffy
so much.
bawling his eyes out as Shanks is once again back to that calm and caring mindset, telling him that he shouldn't worry, as he's just got another one anyway, and that he's
This is
just
so good.
glad Luffy's alright. A brief time skip happens and Shanks is getting ready to set off on another adventure, and once again makes fun of Luffy that he'll never be a pirate, which of course sets him off on another rant that he will make an even better crew than Shanks's and he'll be the king of the pirates. And finally, we get
This
the
is another
story of the
legendary
hats
one.
and why Luffy values it so much. It was a gift from Shanks, saying that he better take good care of it as it's the most important thing to him in the world, and that he should bring it back later. Before we move any further, I just want to say that this was an absolutely
is that it?
amazing episode.
Oh no,
and
I'm just talking about the
enjoyed
episode again.
Every second of it. It just opened up so many doors as to where Shanks is
Was it
now,
all that powerful
whether
here?
they meet back up again, and so on. Overall,
I mean, he did have a
it was
billion berry
completely a
bounty.
flashback episode.
Like
The next
right
two
here.
episodes are kind of our first proper villain, that being Buggy and his crew. We of course see Nami's trickery as she calls Luffy her boss, which immediately makes the pirates turn to him rather than her. And then a bit later, we see Buggy himself, who is of course also someone.
I hope all of you have read. I hope all of you are up to date with the manga because I want to make a really stupid joke. Can I make a really stupid joke? If you're not caught up, plug your ears real quick. 10 seconds. We saw Emperor versus Emperor. Think about that. Think about that.
Power. And in short, this guy is absolutely nuts. Buggy makes Nami a proposal. If she fires a cannon at Luffy, she'll get off scot-free and be able to join the crew. She of course rejects the offer, and a battle ensues. During the fight, Buggy cuts Shanks' straw hat, which makes Luffy go completely berserk,
Look at this.
and the fight is over soon thereafter. We do get a brief glimpse at Buggy's backstory and that he knows Shanks, but there's not really too
Oh, right. So this was also shown that early on that both of them are.
much else there.
Okay.
After the fight is won, despite hating pirates and all that, Nami
The most
joins
important
the
fight,
crew's
and we
rank,
didn't even knew
which
it.
of course means that a navigator has been acquired. And that's the end of another very short arc. As you're probably able to tell, the highlight for me was absolutely the Luffy and Shanks.
This is
flashback
something.
episode.
This is something that I've now changed in my rankings, by the way, because a lot of people said that the Luffy flashback episode is actually a part of Romance Dawn normally, right? So whenever I do the rankings now, I account this for Romance Dawn as well, even though technically it's a part of Orangetown. Is the video syncing with the audio, or am I the only one desynced? I don't know. Obviously, everything's fine on my end.
Defined this arc for me. Honestly, I wasn't really a fan of Buggy here.
Well, that aged well. In the latest 1029 episode, yeah, I need to watch it. I haven't seen it yet. There's a scene, give it to some treasure, but yeah, so again, it's implying that Shanks knew, right? But then if Shanks knew, and there's a lot of confusing stuff there. I talk about it a lot in the Wano video, so I don't want to open that
Maybe because
Pandora's
he didn't
box
get enough
now.
time to be a lot more developed or something like that, but I didn't really enjoy him as a villain. Though I do think that the little sneak peek of his backstory was interesting, and I hope that we'll hear from him again sometime. With all of that being said, let's bring up the tier list and rank Orangetown. With everything I've said so far, it will only be a C for me, though a high C because of the awesome flash.
Did you see that?
We'll see how these rankings shift around later.
Not a
With
pun,
that
because
done,
it said
let's move
high
on
C,
to
you know.
Syrup Village.
It's funny.
This is what I view as the first proper arc in the series, with it being longer than the two previous arcs combined. We start off with the trio arriving at a village in search of a ship. We are also introduced to Usopp, a seemingly pretty wimpy dude with a very long nose. We learn that Usopp
It's God,
is
what do you
meeting
mean?
with a girl named Kaya and telling her made-up stories of his adventures as a noble pirate. Klahador, Kaya's servant, claims that Usopp does not have Kaya's best interests in mind, and makes him leave immediately. Though we start to find out that there may be a little more to the seemingly overprotective caretaker.
I love this dude
We
so
find
much,
out
by the
that
way.
He does indeed have ulterior motives.
And I very much
His
still stand by
action
this.
only
I still
leads
think
to
that
Kaya's
this arc is the one that
values
hooked me on
off.
One Piece,
Meanwhile,
basically.
another sketchy
I know that for a lot of
character
people it's
is
Baratier,
hypnotist
but
Django, along with
for
his
me
crew.
it's
Now that a real battle
Syrup
is
Village,
actually
basically.
going to take place, Usopp works up the courage to fight against these pirates. And so, the final battle of Syrup Village begins.
I love how
Django
ridiculous. Like, look at this. Look at this. Look at how quickly I went. It's taken me less than a minute to go from the start of the arc to the final battle.
Hypnotizes Luffy, making him fall asleep, as well as many of his crewmates, giving them highly enhanced physical abilities. Now that Luffy is out of the picture, even Zoro is having a hard time fighting off the entirety of their crew. But, just as he nears victory, the real villain appears, Klahador, or better known as the terrifying Captain Kuro. His fighting
I love
abilities
this guy
are
so much.
infamous that each and every pirate is deathly afraid of him, and we even get an explanation.
This was
about
such a
one of
great
his
detail too, like the whole
moves,
pushing up the
how he
glasses.
pushes up his glasses. It's always been out of instinct as to not poke himself with one of his claws. Nami then manages to
Look at how
wake
wimpy Luffy
so
looked.
he is also back in the fight. While Zoro is dealing with the hypnotized pirates, Luffy engages Captain Kuro, who is holding his own against the Rubberman quite well. During this fight, we also get a flashback about Kuro's plan, faking his own capturing and taking on a new identity as the caretaker of Kaya, with, as mentioned, the intention to get her family's riches. The fight carries on.
This was
Kuro uses
this was another one of those things that really I think changed my perception of One Piece. Because at this point I was completely clueless, right? So when we started to get these sort of mysteries of even like single characters having deep backstories, I thought that that would also be a through line for the series. And then Arlong Park sort of flipped that on its head a little bit. Basically, my expectations for the series at this point were absolutely all over the place, and that's probably why I'm so
one of his
ridiculously
most infamous
clueless.
and deadliest techniques,
I had no clue what to
hitting
expect.
both Luffy as well as most of the other pirates. Ultimately, though, both Kuro and Django are defeated, and the battle is over. Captain Kuro, more like Captain Huro, as a form of thanking Luffy and the gang, Kaya surprises them with a present. Their very own ship. There's also this great scene of Usopp rolling down the hill with his packed
I love how they've
Just
kept
like
up
that,
the
another crewmate has been acquired.
I love how they kept
Now
up the
that crew is
huge
back on
backpack
the
thing.
open seas, they developed their
Oh!
own flag.
Another thing, I'm gonna stop again. At this point, I had an inkling that our crew would become ridiculously big, because at this point it was basically 3-for-3 in terms of getting new crewmates. I thought we would legit just go on and get a new crewmate all the time.
Had pirates, and so the Going Merry is complete. The final episode of this arc takes us to the legendary Treasure Island, a mystical place surrounded by just as mystical legends. As it turns out, this island is actually occupied by a single ex-pirate named Gaimon. He's been stuck
I love
in a
this
treasure
dude.
chest and was left behind by his crew 20 years ago.
Oh,
Some
Django also
shenanigans
has a
and
cover
treasure
story?
finding occurs, but
I'll give it a read
overall,
sometime.
This was a really short one-off story, and honestly, Gaimon was a really cool character. Though unlike previous characters, Gaimon doesn't join the crew and decides to continue living out his
This is what I said. At this point, I was fully under the assumption that basically everyone we'd meet would end up joining the crew.
days alongside his new animal friends on the island, and so the crew heads off. And that's Syrup Village. As I mentioned before, I kind of view this as somewhat the first complete arc, and so comparing them is quite difficult since it just had that much more runtime. Though summing up, Kuro was an absolutely awesome villain, and I really enjoyed seeing his backstory explaining how he tried to escape his past. I liked how his fighting style was so ruthless and infamous that even people who were working under him
I love
were
this trope.
terrified that they'd get
This is a
caught
very
in
good trope.
crossfire. All in all, I think he was just a really good baddie. Though, with that being said, I still think this is only a B tier arc.
Oh,
I'm not exactly
fair
sure
enough.
why, but I only really got into it by the time it was almost over. So the highlight was very much the final stand.
Oh, by the way, this is an incredible shot, by the way. Like, this whole compiled shot is like really good. I like it.
Combined with the one-off episode on Treasure Island, makes this a very high B, but not quite an A. So, with 3 arcs tackled, it's time to move on to the final one.
The big one.
At this video. Barati.
Captain Morgan? No, I didn't think Captain Morgan's gonna join. I just thought that basically someone who was Straw Hat material would always join, and that would basically be like the premise of the story. Luffy would just build up this absolutely massive crew as we go on.
Once again, we open with the crew on the open seas, and Luffy is wanting to get some target practice with the cannons. While
this was such a good goof.
A much-deserved nap, and we drift into a flashback. We see a young Zoro
this is how that happened.
Challenge anyone from a dojo to a sword fight, though the opponent he gets is unexpected, a girl named Kuina. Despite using about 8 swords, he gets absolutely destroyed.
Look at this. Wait, hold on. Let's count the swords. This is foreshadowing.
A girl named Kuina. Despite
that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're gonna see 7 swords now. In chapter 1 of the manga, Luffy says he wants only 10 members, but they cut it out of the anime. Yeah, that is in post-war. I miss when the crew just hanging out on the ship. True, I miss those moments too.
About 8 swords,
but like, can we talk about? Okay, we're gonna talk about it later.
Absolutely destroyed. Though despite this, he gets back up and once again rushes her with 2 swords, saying that this is the first time he's even held a bamboo sword. Of course, he gets 1 shot again and the fight is done. After being defeated, he says that he wishes to train, which he does. A lot more than any of the other students. Though despite the intense training, he's still no match for Kuina, with 2,000 losses and 0 wins against her. We then learn of the master's intent. He does not plan for Kuina to be his successor. He wishes for it to be Zoro.
This
is where I really thought that the series is way ahead of its time. Tackling gender discrimination in a show like this
is
something that I certainly did not expect. And this is further expanded on later as Kuina confides in Zoro that she can never be a true master just because she's a woman.
This is very true. This caught me off surprise.
Can become a true master, and so they make each other a promise to become the best swordsman. Zoro.
Okay, now that we've seen this, right? I don't know if this is a hot take, right? I think I said this with Sabo. Basically, I still have a problem with Kuina. Right? And that is because Tashigi is basically introduced as Kuina because Kuina was killed off. So ultimately, nothing changed. And that is just unfortunate. I don't know. I think literally introducing the same character because you just killed off the previous one, especially in retrospect, because the same thing basically happens with Ace and Sabo, right? That is one of those things that I still think, because people say, well, hey, Oda is usually pretty bad at killing off characters, but when he does, we sometimes see things like these. Because I genuinely think that the reason why Tashigi exists is to basically carry on exactly what Kuina was meant to do, but in order to make Zoro, Kuina had to die, right? So nothing changes, but you still get the benefit. I think that's just a bit convenient, as I say.
Zoro continues to train even harder, but then we find out that Kuina has tragically died. And I won't lie, this really hit me in the feels. And
Very true. This was sad.
How well these mini arcs are written. Even knowing these characters for a mere 10 minutes managed to really get me invested into their story. On top of the commentary of gender stereotypes, and despite Kuina obviously being a master in combat already, never getting the recognition she truly deserves, really made this an impactful scene. In an attempt
Very true.
To keep
Very
his
true.
promise, Zoro keeps
I think I've talked about how good flashbacks are a lot already.
Who's finally ready to set off on his own adventure and fulfill his mission of becoming the greatest swordsman. only to be woken up by Luffy and Usopp's cannon firing.
Tashigi doesn't strike me as Queen 2.0. She never has been a real rival for Zoro. Well, that's the thing. I think by the end of the story, she will be. I think that's what's being set up, especially with what we saw already in Punk Hazard, right? That Zoro does respect her somewhat. Kuina's death is still very suspicious. I don't know.
That is an opening episode to remember.
I think she's dead. I don't think
Haven't
it's...
even reached Baratie yet. The crew meets Johnny and Yosaku, two pretty interesting characters who already know Zoro from their bounty hunting days. After being on the sea for a while, Yosaku has pretty intense scurvy, and Nami says that they need to understand the type of nutrients they need. And so, the mission for a cook begins, and we're on our way to Baratie. Some shenanigans ensue, a part of the ship is destroyed, and Chef Zeph makes Luffy
it's our boy
board the
Zeph.
ship to repay his debt. Meanwhile, Sanji, the sous chef,
Here we
also
go.
makes his debut and gets in a conflict with this
It's
full
Sanji.
of himself guy, Full Body. This is then interrupted by another crew of starving pirates, including the ruthless captain Don Krieg. Though this time, he is not nearly as intimidating, as he's barely holding himself together and begging for any food. Although no one is willing to help, saying that everyone will be
Like,
better
another
off
purely
with no
technical
one
thing that really
around.
bothers me. Do you notice how many cuts there are? This was because I was already very conscious of using anime footage. So, basically, every time there is a still for more than, like, 4 seconds, I cut away. And it still didn't save me. Because if you've been following the channel for a long time, you know that I went through a lot of trouble with copyright. Basically, the channel was almost deleted. Because of
Sanji
Toei.
steps up saying that the restaurant feeds everyone, no matter who they are. This kindness is not repaid at all, however, as Don Krieg gets up and sends Sanji flying across the room. Jin, the pirate who had brought his starving captain here, says that this was not the agreements and that they should just leave, pointing out that this man saved their lives. Don Krieg, however, ignores him and demands the ship. Furthermore, saying that the restaurants serve each and every one of their crew as well. Sanji says once again that it's his job to feed everyone, and everything else comes second. Finally, Chef...
I need to read this real quick. I also think Kuina's died, but it's said that she died because they fell some stairs, while others survived literally starving, bone-cracking punches. I mean, maybe. I think it can definitely be, even if it is retconned, and we find out that her real cause of death was something else. I think that is entirely possible. But as of right now, I just take it on its face value.
Zeph makes an appearance, only for Don...
I love Zeph so much. Like, look at his hat. Look at his, what's it called? You know what I mean. Like, he just looks like a solid pirate captain that is now a chef. I love his hat.
Krieg to recognize him as Redfoot Zeph. We don't yet find out exactly who and what Zeph was before, but Don Krieg takes the prepared meals and goes off to feed his crew. Just as things start to calm down somewhat, we get some commentary from Jin, as he talks about what happened during the time they spent in the Grand Line, explaining that a single man destroyed their entire fleet. And this is something I am really growing to love. We're constantly getting these little hints and clues as to how dangerous the Grand Line really is.
Again, see?
Needless to say, I couldn't wait to hear more. And of course, it didn't take long until I did. As Hawkeye...
Before we get to this, see, this is another, like, example. I didn't think we would ever reach the Grand Line.
The legendary swordsman Zoro had been looking for appears. During this craziness, Nami tricks Yosaku and Johnny and goes off on her own. More on this later. But after Hawkeyes and Zoro meet, it is time for a duel.
Wait, hold on. Why doesn't he have his signature eyeball?
Goes off on her own. More on this later. But after Hawkeyes and Zoro meet, it is time
Kinda does.
for a duel.
Fair enough.
To find out who really is the best swordsman. And holy hell, was this an intense fight.
This is still one of my favorite
Was
favorite
clearly
scenes
no
in the
match for
entire
him, and
show.
I'll be honest, I really thought Zoro died for a hot minute. Though of course, Hawkeyes then explains that Zoro is truly an honorable fighter. And that he should seek him out once more once he is ready.
This was back when
And
I
then
thought...
this scene here hit me right in the feels. As Zoro is on the brink
Very
of
sad.
death,
I
he
thought
cries
this
out
was
to Luffy
back
that
when
he is
One
sorry
Piece
for
actually
letting him
killed
down,
things.
and that
Things,
he
people.
swears he will never lose again, calling him the King of the Pirates.
This was
Zoro is really
perfect.
becoming one of my favorite characters, I'm not gonna lie.
Still true.
The fight is nowhere near over, of course, as Don Krieg now begins fighting the restaurant crew, with Zeph being taken hostage, and Sanji once again standing up to the fight. After taking a massive blow to the face, Sanji is once again sent flying, and we drift into a flashback. We see a young Sanji as he's working in a restaurant, and the older cooks are pestering
Alright, so
about him believing the stories of the All Blue.
it's another
The
thing.
place where fish of all
I don't know if I
four
say this
seas
here.
live.
Let's
And
wait.
I'll be honest, at this point, I was starting to get the suspicion
I do.
that the Grand Line was more of a metaphor, as each of our characters seemingly has their own completely unrelated goal to achieve there. But you know, just a thought. But anyway,
I was already
Zeph
being
and
cheeky
the
with
cook
predictions,
pirates of the
even though it
capture
turned out
this
to be like
ship of cooks.
completely
Sanji,
wrong.
being the hot-headed child that he is, runs into combat only to be kicked around by Zeph himself. As Sanji is lying on the floor, he mutters that he will not draw his last breath until he sees the All Blue. And then suddenly a wave crashes over the ship and sends Sanji flying into the open waters. Despite kicking him around like a piece of trash earlier, Zeph does not hesitate for a moment as he leaps into the water to save the young boy.
I still want to
As
see
the
a
ships
Zeph
smash against
flashback.
each other, Zeph's leg is caught, and instead of worrying about
Like,
himself,
Zeph
he
was
flies the
apparently
chain around,
a
ripping it
super
off
dangerous
and
pirate,
turns to
right?
swim to Sanji. Once the storm passes, Sanji wakes up on a small stone island with their ships gone, and only Zeph by his side, who claims to be splitting up the food they have and encouraging him to ration it out. Sanji gets incredibly mad that his share is much smaller than Zeph's, to which he responds that Sanji himself is also much smaller. Ultimately,
This was such a
Sanji
messed
heads
up
on to the
flashback.
other side of the island and just stares into the sea, praying for a ship to sail by. Weeks pass and the rations have ran out. On the brink of starvation, instincts take over, and Sanji goes to steal some of Zeph's food. He cuts open the bag, only to find out that it never had any food at all, just gold and other riches. And then, there's this brilliant scene as Sanji pieces it together.
Like,
We
look.
cut to Zeph, who is also barely alive, and only now Sanji notices that he has lost a part of his leg.
So this is something that the anime changed, right? Because in the manga, he apparently eats his own leg, which is extreme, to say the least. So I guess the series just censored a whole bunch of things early on. But hey, look at how smart I was. Look at how smart I was. A lot of what I say here actually is still pretty decent.
Sanji breaks
I agree
down
with a lot of
asking
it.
why he did this, to which Zeph responds that his only goal in life was to find the All Blue. And because Sanji
Wait, hold on. In the anime, I can't call Zeph Eat Your Own Food Guy. Name was created by Murphy and Apira, which makes me sad. A lot of people have recommended me to check out her channel. Apparently, her coverage of One Piece is really good. And now that I've mostly finished mine, I can sort of do that. Yeah.
the only one to share that dream, he just had to save him. And even on the brink of death, he still laughs and says the phrase, "We have all this money, yet we're going to starve." Luckily, a ship does appear.
This is another one of those like classic. I love how in many ways, One Piece, despite being super high fantasy and everything, even like as far back as this, it still had these super old school type values in it. Like the whole we have all this treasure, but it's like it will do us no good. That is that's awesome.
And both Sanji and
I would most definitely watch your reaction to Murphy's videos. I don't know how I feel about watching other people's content because I just don't know whether they want that or not, right? Because it's a bit of a controversial thing for many. So yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna watch like any other people's videos who haven't explicitly said that it's fine.
Zeph are saved. And that's yet another amazing flashback episode in this arc.
Very true.
And I'll be honest, this one hit me in the feels even harder than Zoro's. It really is crazy
Also true.
how fast this show gets me attached to these characters. Finally, Sanji recovers from the
Also
strike,
true.
and the battle continues. And there's one thing I want to mention here. I suppose my original understanding of the Devil Fruit curse was right, because Luffy now just sank straight to the bottom.
So wait,
But
hold
anyway,
on.
I really
Is
liked
this,
some
was
of the
this Sea Prism Stone and we didn't know it? Or is it just a regular thing? Because last time, Luffy was trying to swim, right? But this time, he literally just sinks
Devil Fruit
immediately.
curse was right, because Luffy now just sank straight to the bottom.
And in Arlong Park,
But
he also
anyway,
sinks
I
immediately.
really like it as a countermeasure to his incredible strength and near invulnerability in a power sense as well. Sanji saves Luffy, and the fight is finally over.
And this is another one of those things that was kind of retconned, because apparently Sanji knew all about devil fruits, but he didn't know that Luffy couldn't swim because he has a devil fruit, right?
Last episode of this incredible arc is about
It's a bit of
Sanji's decision
a plot
whether he
hole.
should join Luffy's crew or stay at the restaurant. And once again, they tried to get me right in the feels, with everyone on the ship lying to Sanji that his cooking is terrible, just to get him to go and pursue his dream of finding the All Blue and join Luffy. Obviously, he finds out that they were all indeed just lying, and for the first time since he was rescued as a small boy, Sanji shows humility, thanking Zeph for everything he has done for him.
Perfect.
And even the old man sheds a tear saying that real men should part without saying a word.
It's
let
like-
alone tears.
I don't know what it
So,
is with...
a cook has been acquired.
I don't know what it is with Oda, but like the way he writes character narratives, especially, it's like, it's excellent. Do you think Jin is ever coming back like he said he would? Would be the wildest theories about him coming back. I mean, he's definitely still in the cards, right? It's not like anything has happened to him to not make him come back, right? So I think it's definitely possible. I honestly think, like, by the time we reach the end of One Piece, we're gonna get basically everyone again. I think that's sort of what we're going to see. Basically, everybody we've met and that has been important so far is going to show up in the final war, at least in some sense. Even if they don't show up, we're going to see, like, their reaction to what Luffy does or something. I think we're gonna catch up with absolutely everyone.
Final shot of the episode sees the return of Nami,
Which is, of course, a
She's
ridiculous
headed to
number
a
of
unknown
characters.
location, seemingly with a clear mission. And that's the Baratier arc. As you've probably gathered by now, this is one I absolutely loved, with 2 brilliant flashback episodes, interesting characters, and substantial development for the ones we already know.
Big true.
Not only did we get a massive battle with Don Krieg, but we also
I didn't
had a
really like the
duel
Don
between
Krieg fight, to be
Zoro and
honest.
Hawkeyes, further building up and hinting
Zoro
at
vs.
just how
Hawkeyes was like
dangerous
the main
Grand
fight
Line
for me.
really is. And so, I am happy to announce...
Before we get to the ranking, because I do remember this one. Want to hear my wacky theory about Mihawk? It's in one of the upcoming videos. I don't remember which one. But I got this theory that maybe Mihawk is actually from the Void Century. I have like some reasoning for it, but I'll just say that.
Is, without a doubt, our very first S-tier arc.
Big true. Big true. Big true.
I really enjoyed every moment of this one, and I can't wait to find out what happens next. Where is Nami headed? How will the crew reunite with her, and so on?
Big true. Is that
As for
it?
Just some closing thoughts
All right.
on these first few arcs.
There's
One
more.
thing I noticed
But wait.
is that I feel like One Piece does a decent job of keeping Luffy's power in check. As I mentioned before,
Very
he's
true.
obviously insanely powerful compared to most characters that we've seen so far, though that is balanced by the curse of the Devil Fruit. In a series where the characters are most often
This is something that I actually wish we'd got to see more of. I would love to see the actual curse of the fruit play a bigger role in some fights, right? Like, for example, when we saw the whole Law versus Doflamingo fight, the entire time I thought that the water would play a role, but no, they just literally fly around. Well, Mihawk looks like a vampire, so there are some theories about Mihawk being immortal, so theories in that way. That's basically, yeah. His eye is also the same as the elephant's, and his whole vampire vibe, and the fact that he doesn't have a crew. I basically said something along the lines of maybe he had a crew once, right? And that's what made him a warlord, but all of his crew are obviously dead now, and that he is the only survivor, and he's been around since, like, the Void Century. And that's why also he doesn't really care for anyone that much, because, I mean, if you've been alive for 900 years, you'd clearly be a little desensitized to everything. And that's maybe also why he took Zoro so seriously, because he saw his potential, and finally he would have someone who'd be able to face off against him. Kind of like he did with Shanks too, right?
Sea or by a body of water, he can be taken out of the fight fairly quickly. Furthermore, in these fights, everyone is given the opportunity to shine. For instance, the Zoro vs Hawkeye's fight was an entirely one-on-one, and then Sanji vs Don Krieg was also only a duel for the most part. Of course, Luffy does come in at the end, but we still see that the rest of the crew are very much capable of fending for themselves. And lastly, as I promised, why am I watching the anime instead of reading the manga?
Okay, I can talk about this myself. Basically, I ran the numbers. If I wanted to get all the volumes of the manga, it would literally cost me like €1,000. It's not even funny. I think it was actually more. It was a ridiculous amount of money, basically, if I wanted to read all the volumes. Even like shipping from like Amazon or something, like with delivery and everything, it was a ridiculous amount of money.
There are a few reasons. Firstly, it's as simple as just me wanting a super long-running series that I can watch while eating breakfast or something like that.
This is also true. I watched a lot of One Piece while eating breakfast. The whole eye thing is an interesting theory. It helps that some also share the same eyes. Also that. I obviously don't know that yet. So this must have been in the... Well, obviously before Reverie. So I'm guessing I said this in Zoe, maybe? Because Zoe obviously has the elephant. I think I said this in Zoe.
That's just a show that I know I can watch and consistently enjoy. Secondly, it is a production thing. I don't know how
Also
much
true.
the manga differs from the anime, but I'd much rather have everyone on the same page.
So, with the production thing, basically what I meant was that if I wanted to show illustrations, right, showing a black and white manga panel in some cases would just be, first of all, like there's no movement, it's not dynamic at all, so it's kind of hard to do. But second of all, yeah, I really didn't know how different they are, so maybe if there were major changes, it would just be confusing.
No, that is not a pun about reading. And using the anime footage to illustrate what I'm saying is just much easier than using manga panels.
Very true.
Speaking of which, I've always preferred reading a physical book, and simply due to where I live, getting a hold of the manga would firstly just be difficult, and secondly, absolutely break the bank.
Okay, yeah, so basically, yeah, I said the same thing. Okay, so that is basically the first video, right? I don't think there's much left.
Read it online, but again, it's not something I enjoy doing, and with there being over 1,000 chapters, that would be a very big commitment, which I may or may not enjoy to the fullest. And that's pretty much the reasoning. Seeing how the story goes, I may or may not revisit the manga at a later date, but I'm really enjoying this completely blind approach at the moment, and it's what I plan
It was a ton of fun.
for the foreseeable future. But that finally brings us to the end.
That is the end. I still didn't have Patreon here. Thank you for the follow. So that is the first video. Interesting how much things have changed. I mean, in some ways they really haven't, right? Because I'm still being cheeky with completely random predictions, so that hasn't changed. I think in terms of making the videos feel dynamic, these are, like, especially when I work on them now, these feel like fairly, a bit all over the place.
Escape has passed. I absolutely...
I don't know. It's weird watching these videos back. What advice would you give your past self when starting doing One Piece reviews? Most of it would come down to production, right? I wouldn't really change anything in how I worked on them in terms of watching the series itself. Because I think, again, like, just listen to the things I say in, like, Romance Dawn. They are so completely clueless about anything. It's sort of glorious. It's funny, I think. I think that's also why people enjoyed it originally. So most of it would just come down to how much I've changed how I edit and produce things. The audio is also
then defeats Captain Morgan. Pretty interesting.
It hasn't been really properly cut down.
That he will village.
I think I could have gotten this video down to like 30 minutes. I could have cut off like 2 of them. Just in terms of cutting off those little subtle pauses.
It's always been out.
So yeah, a lot of it is just technical.